You're tuned in to Dynamics Talk, hosted by the one and only Dion Taylor.
Hey guys, Dion Taylor here. So in this video, I'm going to show you how you can use PowerFX to hide or show a button based on a lookup column. Right? So this is a very specific scenario that a friend of mine was actually trying to accomplish, and I'm going to show you exactly in this video how that's going to work. So first, let me show you the end results. This is after we configured the button with the PowerFX code. Now, again, like I said earlier, we are going to show a button when the lookup value here in this contact lookup on the opportunity table is actually blank. So let me go ahead and show you that. So here we have the John Doe opportunity. You can see the contact lookup is blank, and you can now also see that it now shows my test button. I also have another row here where we do have a lookup populated in this contact lookup, and you can see here that now we are not able to view that button because of that value here in this contact lookup. Now, I did want to mention that there are some limitations when you're using PowerFX for visibility, right? So for example, if I would get rid of the Jane Doe here in this contact lookup, if you would use JavaScript, you would then immediately be able to view that button, right? But because this PowerFX logic doesn't run until after I save this record, we'll have to save first, and then it will see that my contact lookup is blank, and therefore it's going to show my test button. Same thing if I'm going to repopulate the data in here, I would have to hit save, right? Because currently it's populated, it's still showing my button, but after I save it, it will go back and hide that button for me. So I just want to make sure that you are aware of that. Now, your requirement might actually be the opposite, right? Maybe you want to show the button when it does have a value in a lookup. So I'm going to share that PowerFX formula with you as well. But let's now go into a brand new sales environment so I can show you how you can configure this in that environment. So here we are in Power Apps, and obviously you have to make sure that you are selecting the correct environment in here as well, right? Don't forget about that. Then what we're going to do is we're going to navigate to apps, and you saw earlier that I was in the Sales Hub. So I'm going to go ahead and click on the edit button over here. And then what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to, because remember this was on the opportunity table, so I need to find my opportunities view. It's right over here. You can also go ahead and just search by you can just type in the table that you're looking for. If it's not in your app, you can actually add the table. You click on Dataverse table, and then you would search again, right, for the table that you want to add over here. Now mine's already here, and as you can see, I am going to hover my mouse next to the view for that table. I'm going to click here on those three dots, and then I'm going to click on edit command bar, and then you can either edit it in this screen or in a new tab. I'm going to go ahead and edit it in this particular screen, and then I'm going to have to determine where this command bar, where this button that I'm going to add, where that will be. It could be on all of those, which means you're going to go in here and repeat all of these steps. But for now, I'm only going to put this button on my main form, right? That's also what I showed you earlier in the demo. I'm going to click here on edit, and this is now going to load that command bar editor or whatever you want to call that. So let's just go ahead and give it a few seconds here while this loads. And there we go. So the first thing I wanted to mention here real quick is that since we're going to use PowerFX, you can see here that it says we need to create a component library to enable PowerFX. You can also see it's grayed out here. So there's nothing really that we can do here. So you can do this by just creating the new button and then adding some of these things later, or you can just go ahead and click here where it says create component library to enable PowerFX. I'm just going to go ahead and do that. And as you can see here, it tells me again to use PowerFX, we would need to create that component library. So I'm going to click here on continue, and I'm just going to give it a minute here while it builds that component library for me. And there you go. You can also see now that that button is no longer grayed out, and we can now actually click here on open component library. So this is the first thing that I'm going to do. We're going to click on open component library. And the reason for that is, I'm going to show you that in a second, is that by default, there's not going to be a lot of data sources in here. Now, since we want to show or hide a button based on the value in the opportunity, the value for a contact record, we need to add that contact table here inside of this component library. And you can see here we have data over here. The only data that's in here currently is opportunities. So if you don't do this, then your PowerFX formula is actually going to not work the way that you want it to work. So that's why I'm adding my contacts here as a data source. You can see it's already in here. If not, you can just go ahead and you can search for contacts. Just go ahead and do that. Here it is. This is the table I want to add. And then as you can see, this will now in a second add that data here into my component library. And again, if you don't do that, then that PowerFX function is not going to work correctly, unfortunately. Now, obviously, you don't want to forget to publish your changes. So I'm just going to go ahead and do that first. And once this is published, then we can, let's just go ahead and say, publish this version. Once that is done, then we can go back to that command bar, command button, whatever you want to call that, right? That editor screen, the command designer is actually what it's called. And then we're going to go ahead and do that. So this has been published now. So I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to go back here. Oh, let's just go ahead and make sure that we actually did publish that correctly before we go back here. So now that we're back here in the command designer, we're now going to add the button. I'm going to click here on new, and then I'm going to click on command. There we go. And then here you can see that new command button over here. So you can go ahead and give it a name here. I'm just going to call it test. You can select an icon as well. You can use a web resource, or you can use one of those pre-existing icons over here as well. I'm going to pick the same one you just saw earlier when I did that demo. The action piece of this is what is actually going to happen when somebody actually clicks on that button. Now, I'm not going to get into that. That could be many, many different ways. Remember, we were only talking about the visibility and when we are going to hide and show that button. So if you leave this to show, it is always going to be visible. We don't want that. We want that depending on the condition in our formula. So when you click on this, you'll notice now that this now says visible, and then here it says true. And this is where we're going to enter that PowerFX formula. So again, we wanted this to be visible, right? Only if that contact lookup column was empty. So I'm going to say is blank. And that is the self-selected, right? The item that we have selected. So I'm going to say item, and it's actually the contact field that we are talking about. And then we're going to go ahead and close that. And you can see that there are no errors, no squiggly little things here, right? If I do this, you can see here now, this little red squiggly line means that there's something wrong with that formula, but that's because I just added all of those different letters to it, right? So this is all that you have to do. And then you can just go ahead and save and publish, and that will now, let's just go ahead and do that. And that will now update the visibility of that particular button, right? To only show that if that contact lookup is blank. Now, you could have a scenario that is the opposite of this, right? If you want to show the button if the contact lookup actually does have data in it, then you would use a different formula. The only thing that you would have to add here is this exclamation point, just one, not two, right? This means it is not blank. So now that contact lookup on that self-selected item in that opportunity, right, row is not blank. That's what this means. So I hope this was beneficial for you. Obviously, we can do a lot more than just hiding or showing buttons inside of the application with PowerFX, but I thought this was a great start, and hopefully this was something that you can use in the future. I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you did, don't forget to hit that like button. Also, don't forget to subscribe so you'll never miss another video again. Thanks for watching. Until next time.